Banaza is a good-for-nothing, pathetic loser who has never felt the touch of a woman. His entire life changes when he gets teleported to another world where he gets treated like trash for being weak. But things take a turn for the good when he comes across a demon with two massive reasons to be loved by people. In the royal capital, Paluma, demi-humans are forced into hard labor by humans. However, Banaza, our main character, treats them equally and even pays them for their work. The demi-humans try to refuse the payment, but Banaza, being kind-hearted, insists they accept it and have lunch. Seeing all this, the capitalist traders from America call him a hypocrite, which makes Banaza wonder why they all can't live in harmony. Suddenly, Banaza is teleported to another world, finding himself surrounded by priests and a man who welcomes him to the magical kingdom of Clearode. The man calls Banaza a hero candidate. Banaza is confused, struggling to understand what is happening, as the man explains that Banaza has been summoned to protect their kingdom from the Dark Army. He is then asked to place his hand on an orb that'll determine his magical energy. As soon as his skills get appraised, they realize that Banaza is just a pathetic loser who has no divine revelation. Just then, another guy is summoned from some other world, and that edgy guy turns out to be insanely overpowered. Seeing this, the demi-humans and all the priests start simping over him. After this, the ugly king of the kingdom declares the other man as the hero. Banaza is told he cannot return to his own kingdom because the gate used to summon him is now closed. They give him special permission to stay in the Lv1 forest. On his way there, Banaza asks the demi-human escorting him some questions about this world, but gets completely ignored just as my crush ignores me. He then questions the demi-human if he's in a slave contract with the king. In response to this, the guy starts laughing and reveals that humans and demi-humans live in harmony in this world. He then instructs Banaza to bottle up and closes the door. Later on, as they reach the forest, the demi-human hands over a small pouch to him and warns him to get out of here if he wants to survive. After this, Banaza takes a sword from his pouch and notes how worn out it looks. Soon he encounters some slimes and defeats them, reaching level 2 and leveling up all his stats. Not realizing the significance of the infinity symbol next to his stats, Banaza still thinks he's a pathetic loser. Feeling lonely, he activates the voice instruction feature. The voice tells him that the pouch has a locator spell and another spell that attracts monsters. This makes him realize that the Trash King. Following this, as he is about to enter the forest, the voice warns him that the forest is heavily polluted by malicium, which refers to liquid and gas produced by demons. The voice then asks if he wants to purify the entire forest, and without thinking any further, Banaza agrees to this. Meanwhile, the princess of the kingdom confronts her good-for-nothing father for sending Banaza to the Lv1 forest. According to her, it was their fault for summoning Banaza into this world, but the king doesn't accept his mistake and calls Banaza trash. Just then, a man appears in front of him and reports that the ultimate holy magic spell has been cast. Upon hearing this, the king is overjoyed, assuming the hero cast the spell. However, the man goes on to reveal that the spell was actually cast in the forest where Banaza was sent. This revelation surprises everyone present. Meanwhile, Banaza utilizes a unique skill shapeshift to alter his appearance so he can venture inside town. While choosing the gender, he actually chooses female and turns into a beauty with massive melons. But transposes his choice immediately. This time, he turns into a stud. Now that he has altered his appearance, it's time for Banaza to venture to Castletown. The voice suggests using teleportation for instant travel, and Banaza agrees. Upon arriving in town, he heads to the guild, where he learns everything about being an adventurer. Since he can't register as Banaza, he uses the name Fleo, which was his old dog's name. After this, while looking for some random jobs, he notices a girl pleading with people to escort her to the Lv1 forest, but everyone refuses her request. Seeing this, Banaza approaches her and offers to escort her. As they are conversing, he accidentally utters teleportation magic, which shocks the entire guild. Just then, some other adventurers appear at the spot and label him a child trafficker for lying about using teleportation magic. To clear his name, Banaza urges them to accompany him, and they agree. He then casts teleportation magic, transporting all of them to the forest. This makes them wonder if he might not be an average loser, but a high-level mage. They also apologize for their rude behavior. Meanwhile, the little girl is shocked to see that the forest is no longer covered in Melicium. This revelation makes the other women realize that the girl is actually a demon, and they threaten her to reveal her true identity. The girl takes their insult to heart and transforms into a massive wolf demon named Fenris. She was instructed by her brother to scout the enemy and gather the prey. The adventurers, on the other hand, were not expecting such a high-caliber demon to appear there. However, much to the demon's surprise, Banaza was not affected by her Melicium at all and decides to get rid of him. Banaza has no other choice but to teleport the others back to the town, and after doing this, he unleashes all his magic spells to defeat the demon. After teleporting the useless women to the town, Banaza is up against Fenris the demon. With no other option, he decides to use all the magic spells in his arsenal and take down the demon. He manages to dodge its attacks with Meteoric Leap and then counterattacks with Whirlwind. The demon escapes the attack, but Banaza traps it with gravitation magic. The monster tries to escape using instant teleportation, but Banaza's AI dispels its magic, rendering the monster powerless. Banaza, meanwhile, is figuring out how to capture the monster. The AI suggests using subjugation magic to make the monster his servant, but Banaza immediately rejects this idea, stating he doesn't want to make anyone his servant. The AI continues to recommend subjugation, but Banaza persists in his decision. In the meantime, the demon's magic runs out, and it surrenders, stating that a warrior without magic has no right to live. It demands that Banaza kill it, but he refuses since fighting was never his intention. He then dispels his gravitation magic and frees the demon. This shocks the demon, which questions his reasoning. Banaza asserts that being human or demon doesn't matter to him, and that he doesn't want to fight someone who has already surrendered. Hearing this, the demon transforms into a woman with massive melons.
Damn!
Banaza immediately offers her his jacket, and suddenly the woman collapses. Following all this, Banaza sets up a camp where he scans through his magic spells and remembers people deeming teleportation magic as something mighty. This makes him ponder why he can use such a magic spell. Meanwhile, Fenris also awakens from her sleep and notices that her magic has already been replenished. She then approaches Banaza and questions if he casted healing magic all on her, to which he replies positively. Fenris explains that it would have been natural if she had been killed and skinned, but Banaza saved her. She then pledges that she would never hurt humans again and acknowledges Banaza as her master. Banaza steadfastly refuses to accept being called her master, but Fenris persists, suggesting she could carry his belongings or even become his servant. Despite Banaza rejecting these proposals, he eventually relents after seeing Fenris in tears, allowing her to accompany him. He shares the story of his past, revealing how he was summoned to this world under the label of a pathetic loser. Despite learning all this, Fenris pledges to stand by him. Meanwhile, the hero's entire army is decimated by magic beasts, prompting the hero to blame the knights for their demise. However, the ugly king harbors doubts and interrogates his knight. The knight reveals that the hero fled and abandoned his troops in fear upon encountering monsters. As the hero ponders why his stats aren't increasing, he is suddenly joined by another woman with noticeable physical attributes who accompanies him to his room. Amidst all this, Banaza takes Fenris to the town and decides to get her registered with the Adventurers Guild. As they are venturing through the town, a trader mistakes them for a couple, and Banaza deems this a good strategy to avoid misunderstandings. This makes Fenris insanely happy since she always wanted a husband like Banaza. Upon reaching the guild, Banaza gets Fenris registered as Rice. Just then, the guild issues an emergency announcement about an urgent request to eliminate the psycho bears heading towards the town. Fenris proposes that they take on this mission, but Banaza declines, citing his own perceived weakness. Left with no alternative, Fenris resolves to confront the psycho bears alone to demonstrate Banaza's overwhelming power. They teleport to the location where the psycho bears were sighted last. Despite Fenris's confidence in handling the situation solo, Banaza insists on accompanying her, refusing to let her face the danger alone. Hearing this, Fenris comments that they can even defeat the demon lord if they're together. Just then, they hear some women screaming and rush towards them, only to come across those useless adventurers from before. Seeing this, Fenris suggests that they leave them behind, but being a goody two-shoes, Banaza decides to help them. Just as they take down the bears, the girls recognize Banaza immediately and question him about Fenris. Banaza introduces her as his companion, which disappoints her. Suddenly, a psycho bear appears out of nowhere and ambushes Fenris, who scares the living shit out of it, and they decide to tame the bear as their pet. They even name the bear as Side. Following all this, Banaza takes the useless women to his house, where they introduce themselves as Balarosa, Blossom, Baileri, and Balano. Even though all of them are knights serving the king, they urge Banaza to take them in as his students. According to them, the hero's army was wiped out by some psycho bears, and the hero blamed everything on the knights. Now the king wants the knights to be capable enough to take down at least one psycho bear by themselves. They also admit that they are weaklings and want Banaza to teach them. Banaza wants to help them, but he is just as useless as them, so it would get difficult for him. He then reintroduces Fenris as his wife, and upon hearing this, Fenris agrees to training the useless women. Now that Banaza has agreed to help them, the women have another request. They want him to let them stay in their house, and for some reason, Fenris agrees to this as well. Meanwhile, the Demon King has been reported about the purification magic casted in the forest. This shocks him as he demands to locate the human who casted such powerful magic alone. My man Banaza wakes up to Fenris staring at his face, which shocks him, and he questions the reason behind it. Fenris reminds him that they're a married couple and are supposed to stay in the same room. Banaza remembers that Fenris was prepared to get laid last night, but he refused her polite offering, stating that they should officially get married first. He then offers to sleep in the living room, but Fenris asserts that Balarosa and the others would suspect their relationship. With no other option left, both of them have to sleep in the same room. In the present, as Fenris is helping Banaza get undressed, Balarosa appears out of nowhere and misinterprets the situation. Following this, Balarosa and the others go up against a psycho bear and get absolutely folded. This makes Banaza realize that they are just as useless as Aqua. Banaza then allotted them a room to stay in, and they shamelessly accept his offer. Just then, Fenris calls them for dinner, and much to their surprise, she has prepared some raw meat for them. Seeing all this, Banaza suggests that it would be better if she cooked the meat, but Fenris fails to comprehend the reason behind it. Realizing that he is surrounded by useless brats, Banaza decides to prepare dinner himself. Fenris, on the other hand, was a bit hesitant to try cooked meat, but after taking a bite, she fell in love with it. The following day, Banaza and Fenris take all the psycho bears they had captured to the Adventurers Guild, which shocks them as they fail to comprehend how a single individual can capture such mighty numbers. The adventurers inside the guild are also talking behind his back because they have nothing better to do. Fenris then seeks consent for venturing into the town since they still have some time before the assessment. Just then, a guy named Leolith approaches Banaza and introduces himself, revealing that he wants to discuss something with him. As Banaza follows him into a room, Fenris also leaves the guild to learn cooking from someone in the town. Leolith tells him that his fame has spread all across the country, and after hearing about his accomplishments, the king wants him to serve under the hero. They will also grant him knight status, and even though the guild doesn't want to let someone like him to leave, they want him to save their sorry ass. Hearing all this, Banaza concludes that he has no reason to fight those demons and refuses their offer. With this, he leaves the guild and comes across Fenris, who is all worn out. This makes him wonder if she got into a scuffle or anything. Fenris, on the other hand, cannot believe that cooking was that difficult, as during her first class, she literally blew up the entire kitchen. Meanwhile, the useless hero is enjoying his time with some women who tell him about an adventurer who is insanely overpowered. Even though the hero is a pathetic loser, he still brags about his strength and demands to bring Banaza under him. Exact 1 month has passed after this offer, and the castle is still pestering Banaza regarding this matter. Meanwhile, the useless women are doing everything except training, and Balarosa is even seeking Banaza's attention by acting weak. Fenris, however, is not giving them a single opportunity to score their goal. With all of this going on, a mysterious person with cat ears is stalking them. Later on, Fenris prepares dinner for all of them, and much to their surprise, her cooking has improved a lot. Fenris reveals that she has been taking cooking classes in the town recently, and it seems like her hard work is finally paying off. To top it all, she even made curry for Banaza. With all of this going on, the mysterious Catwoman has recognized Fenris and is shocked to see that the most feared warrior in the Demon King's army is now cooking food for her husband. Just then, Fenris appears behind her and addresses her as Illuminus. She takes her inside and questions her regarding her actions. Illuminus reveals that she is here to investigate the area while pondering about Banaza and Fenris's relationship. Even with her appraisal skill, she cannot read his stats. Illuminus then reveals that they have noticed some strange changes in this area, including the fact that there are magic beasts in this area. This makes Banaza realize that his purification magic must have worked back then. This shocks Illuminus as she realizes that Banaza is the man behind Fenris's brother, Fengaril's death. Even though Fenris knew about it, she kept quiet because she believed that it was her brother's fault for being too weak. Suddenly, Banaza and the others appear out of nowhere and apologize for eavesdropping. With no other option left, Illuminus challenges Banaza to a battle, only to get folded in mere seconds. Now that the matter is resolved, Banaza reveals everything to Banaza and the others, stating that he kept this fact a secret because he was afraid that it might trouble them. Even though it is their moral duty to report Fenris to the castle, Banaza and the others decide not to because they owe her a lot. Just then, Fenris senses massive dragons heading towards them, with Illuminus leading them. Banaza, however, gets insanely excited after seeing them, which shocks her. Seeing his carefree behavior, Illuminus instructs the dragons to attack him, but Banaza absolutely obliterates them with his holy magic. He also helps the muscle mommy to acquire the Dragon Slayer skill and enhance her level. Seeing all this, the Demon Lord decides to confront Banaza himself. Banaza reinforces a barrier that informs them about demons, as Fenris further reassures him that she'll kick anyone's ass who trespasses this barrier. Banaza, on the other hand, is still concerned about the fact that he killed Fenris's brother, but her massive melons divert his attention. Meanwhile, Banaza and the others are still shocked that their useless comrade acquired the title of Dragon Slayer that easily. Hearing all this, Banaza heads into the forest to hunt some magic beasts, which makes them believe that she's such a stoic person. Banaza, however, is crying like a little bitch because she wants the Dragon Slayer title as well. According to her, this title is so damn prestigious that it can turn a commoner into a noble. Just then, a guy approaches her from behind and questions about Banaza. Banaza questions his relationship with Banaza and Fenris, as the guy tells her that he's related to Fenris. This makes her realize that he's someone from the demon army and unsheathes her sword. With no other option left, the guy decides to leave without anything and asks her to relay his message to Fenris. He also introduces himself as Gozal. Just then, Banaza and Fenris appear at the spot and question her regarding that guy. According to Banaza was actually talking to the Dark One, which shocks her and she pisses herself. The following day, he visits them and Banaza welcomes him into their home. The Dark One is surprised to see that Banaza is able to keep his calm in front of him. Banaza also confronts the Dark One and pisses herself once again. The Dark One instructs her to sit beside him as they have some tea. Without wasting any time, the Dark One offers Banaza to join his ranks and defeat the humans, who politely refuses his offer, stating that he doesn't know shit about this world and doesn't want to fight. The Dark One then explains the past and tells him that this war has been going on for 500 years. He further tells him that the first Dark One was a reincarnate from another world and was rejected by the humans of that time. According to him, demons accepted that outsider, and this led to an all-out war between them. Amidst all this, Banaza is reconsidering her past decisions. In response to this, Banaza asks if the Dark One wants to stop the war, as the Dark One affirms that even though he doesn't aspire to rule the world, he still won't stand the humans killing his people. He keeps pestering Banaza, only to get brutally rejected, just like my crush rejected me. Besides Banaza, the Dark One is quite fascinated by Banaza, who was sitting beside him all this time. Well, she ends up falling unconscious, and upon waking up after 2 days, she comes across the Dark One, who is having breakfast with Banaza and Fenris. The Dark One keeps visiting them after this, and Banaza refuses to meet him every time. Meanwhile, some knights report to the Ugly King that a demon has been visiting Banaza for quite some time now. This makes them speculate that he must be conspiring with the demons and orders his army to invade him. Just then, the useless hero appears at the spot and demands to lead this army himself and subjugate Banaza. With all of this going on, Banaza is planning to sell some stuff in the town to make some living. Fenris suggests that he should have accepted the offer from the king and wonders if he refused because of her. Banaza assures her it wasn't because of her and further asserts that he doesn't want to fight anyone with his overwhelming abilities. Just then, the useless hero appears at the spot and offers Banaza two choices. He wants him to serve under him and become a knight. Otherwise, he will subjugate him for conspiring against the kingdom. The hero is actually quite delusional and thinks that he's some big shot, but Banaza brutally rejects his offer. The wannabe Kirito keeps pestering him, and with no other option left, Banaza decides to pack his stuff and leave this place. He uses teleportation magic and teleports his entire home to a different place. This shocks the hero and his army since they haven't witnessed teleportation magic utilized over such a large scale. In the meantime, the Dark One also appears at the spot, and a random NPC recognizes him as the demon who has been visiting Banaza. Seeing that Banaza's home is entirely gone, the Dark One gets enraged and instructs his entire army to invade the kingdom. Seeing all this, the hero pisses his pants and escapes. In the meantime, Banaza and the others have established their new home at a place far away from the royal capital. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on anything.